guys, welcome back to my channel and to my annual movies I discovered in 2024 video. I think this is my third year filming this video where I just kind of go through movies I say I discovered throughout the year, and it's basically just movies that had come out prior to 2024 that I hadn't seen until this year that I just thought were absolutely amazing, and I'm just kind of like, where has this been my whole life? The last few years I've had quite a few movies. My videos have been very long, and this year I literally have 3 movies, 3 TV shows, 4 honorable mentions, and that's it. Not to say that some of the movies I watched this year were not amazing. I don't know what it was, just there was just not a ton of stuff this year that really like grabbed my interest and held it or anything like that. The movies that I do have listed here were amazing. There's 2 in particular in TV shows that aren't technically finished yet, like they're still filming and making this show, but I started watching them this year and I was just like, where has this been my whole life? So anyway, let's get started with movies. Like I said, I only have 3. The first one being the 2013 Evil Dead. When this movie came out and I saw the very first trailer, that the trailer was actually like having a warning because it was already so gory, I was petrified. I was like, oh my god, that movie's gonna be crazy. And so this Halloween I finally sat down and I finally watched it, and holy smokes, was this movie so good. Was it gory? Yes, very much so. But was it just, it was so good. I loved this movie. I thought the story was actually like quite good. Obviously, like it's very cliche when it comes to like cabin in the woods, paranormal type movies, but did that make it bad? No. This was such a good movie, probably one of my favorite like cabin in the woods movies. Also, I hate slashers, and this was like not a slasher. It was a paranormal scary movie. It was so good. I absolutely loved it. The girl who played the main character, Jane Levi, she did an incredible job as both like this like recovering drug addict, but also this girl who's been possessed by a demon. She was amazing in this movie. I know she's not part of the Evil Dead Rise movie that came out, I think either this year or last year, but I very much want to watch that movie after seeing this one. I thought it was so good. I absolutely loved it. Where has this been my whole life? Actually, it's been around my whole life. I've just been way too petrified to watch it. I was way too scared of it, but I finally did, and I loved it. This next movie came out in 1990. Again, I've known about this movie. I just never sat down and watched it. And again, why the heck not? Because I loved it. And that was the movie Misery. A couple years ago when my friend visited and Sam had planned like a buttload of surprises for my 30th birthday, one of the surprises was that we went to see a stage production of Misery. And holy smokes, was that incredible. They did such a good job, especially with the like very small set that they had to work with. It was so well done. And even still, that was 2 years ago, and it still took me another 2 years to finally actually sit down and watch this movie. It's been on my list for a long time, and as I've mentioned before, Sam and I have like a random wheel where we spin and choose a random movie to watch. Misery has been on my list for a real long time. I don't know what took me so darn long to finally get to it, but we finally spun it and we watched it, and I loved this movie. People have said many times that this is the movie that put Kathy Bates on the map. And yeah, I can totally see that, because was she amazing in this movie. She did such an incredible job as this character that at the beginning of the movie you think she's like all sweet and innocent, and then no. She is definitely not. She was amazing in this movie. I absolutely loved it. Such a great movie. Like I said, that's about it. We have one more movie left on this list, and that is the 2011 The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Watching this movie, I was like, how did this not get the sequels made? Because obviously this is based on the book, and there's 2 more books. David Fincher directed this movie. Daniel Craig is in this movie. Rooney Mara is in this movie. Like, I can't see it being like a budget issue. I can't see it being that this movie was a flop. or anything. I guess it was just like scheduling issues and stuff. With that being said, I am very interested in getting the 3 movies that were made, but they were done in Sweden, because I have no problem watching foreign movies. Sam and I watch tons of foreign movies, so I have no problem like finding those 3 and watching them, just so I can see what continues to happen throughout these movies, because I loved this movie. I thought it was such a great thriller. Were there some extremely disturbing scenes? Definitely. Like the one scene in particular that I'm sure if you've seen this movie, you know what I am talking about. I knew that scene was coming. I didn't expect it to be that brutal, but despite that one scene, it really showed this main female character's perseverance in just kind of like proving that she can handle herself and she can get and do whatever she wants. And then the whole entire 3rd act of her working with Daniel Craig to solve this mystery, which the mystery also is incredible. I love this movie. I thought it was so good. I wish they would have continued with them, but with that being said, I would definitely watch the Swedish ones. I have attempted to read the book many years ago and I just couldn't do it, because the entire beginning was a lot of like financial talk, which is just not my jam. And I just could not get past it. And I knew there was a mystery coming. I knew this book was more mystery than this whole financial journalism stuff that was going on. But I just couldn't get past it. It was so boring to me. And so I'm very glad that that portion of the movie was cut down a lot. Okay, and then I have 3 TV shows. 2 of them are actually still filming and going on, as I said. One of them was a like mini series, so it is done. The first one started in 2005, and that is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I can see how a lot of people wouldn't like this show, because let's be honest, all of the characters in it are absolutely awful. Like none of these characters have any redeeming qualities. The only redeeming qualities any of them have is like Charlie Day's character is redeemed because he's Charlie Day, and that's about it. They have no redeeming qualities. However, with that being said, I kind of like that that's the like shtick of this show, that these characters are supposed to be awful, because I think I mentioned a few past videos how something like Superstore. I really enjoyed Superstore. However, the main characters of Superstore, Amy and Jonah, were the worst characters ever. They are such horrible people. Amy in particular, like she's such a horrible, awful person, but yet we're supposed to like her and we're supposed to be rooting for her. And that's just something I just could not get behind when it came to Superstore. Like I've rewatched that show, I think one other time, and as much as I enjoy every other aspect of that show, I just can't get past how much I hate Amy, because she's a horrible person, despite the fact that we're apparently supposed to like her. Can't do it. But that's the thing about Always Sunny in Philadelphia. These characters are supposed to be awful. Amy is supposed to be a character we like and we relate to, and she's not. But these characters are definitely not that. These characters are supposed to be horrible. They're supposed to be assholes. They're supposed to be like just like the worst people you've ever met in your whole life. And because of that, the show works. And this show is hilarious because of that. Sam and I watched literally all the way through every single season that was currently on, I think, Disney Plus. And wow, like we burned through that show. Like all of a sudden we were on season 2, and then all of a sudden we were on season like 17. Like we burned through that show. I laughed hysterically so many times at this show. And yes, like I said, I can see a lot of people not liking this show because the characters are garbage people. But the show is just so funny, and I appreciate the fact that they acknowledge that these characters are garbage. The actor who plays Dennis has literally acknowledged that Dennis is supposed to be a sociopath. And it's just so funny, and there's so many like random little bits of the show that I think are hilarious. Like I love the running joke that they never actually find out the waitress's name, and I love the fact that the waitress absolutely hates Charlie, even though the actress who plays the waitress and Charlie Day are married in real life. I think that is absolutely hilarious. I think it's adorable that the actor who plays Mac and the actress who plays Dee are married in real life as well. I just think it's so funny. There's so many like tidbits about this show that are just so funny. If you want to watch a show where the characters are awful, they are awful to everybody around them. They are just horrible, horrible people. But it is hilarious. Check out Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Then the next show started in 2002. I believe 3 seasons are out at the moment. I've watched 1 and 2. We will get to season 3 eventually, but that is The Bear. I love this show. I think it is so freaking good. I absolutely love the 2 main characters, Carmy and Sydney. They are both so amazing, such incredible actors, and just, oh my goodness, so much about this show. Like, this show has really grown with me in a sense that starting in season 1, there was a lot of characters I really despised in this show. For example, there's one character who I cannot remember her name, but she was so mean to Sydney when Sydney first came on, and Sydney was just trying to like follow in Carmy's steps and like learn from him and do what he was telling her to do. And everybody, especially this one chef in particular, was so mean to her. And then now they're like best friends. She's so nice to Sydney. She helps Sydney. There's an episode later in season 1 where Cousin is freaking out about something, and before he can like kind of like handle it, Sydney steps in and she handles it in a very peaceful and calming way, and Cousin is really pissed off about that because that's not what he's like used to. And this other actress, again, I can't remember her name, but the character kind of like pushes him to the side and is like, she is handling it and she's doing a good job, you need to calm down. And like, I just love that she like went to Sydney's defense about this. And speaking of Cousin, the entire season 1, I did not like Cousin. I thought he was such an asshole. And then season 2 happened, and season 2 was so freaking good. I absolutely loved season 2. And it's funny because considering Cousin was my least favorite character all of season 1, his particular episode where he goes and like shadows and does a stage at this like super duper fancy Chicago restaurant, that is by far my favorite episode of the entire show so far. I absolutely loved that episode, and from that episode on, Cousin is like one of my favorite characters now. Like, he is like right underneath Carmy and Sydney. Like, I was like, I can't believe that this one episode has changed my mind so much about him. This show is so good. They have so many incredible like relationships between multiple characters, like the relationship between Carmy and Sugar and her boyfriend. Carmy and Sydney obviously is an incredible relationship, and then just like all the like relationships intermingling throughout the restaurant. It is such a good show. And also, my little brother, who is a chef, has watched that show, and he said it is probably the most accurate like restaurant representation that he has ever seen in a show. He says just it's so well done, the way they like yell at each other, the way they are shouting constantly in the kitchen to each other. He says it is so accurate. So I thought that was such a good touch of this show. And then the last TV show I'm going to talk about came out in 2023, and we finally watched it this year. This was a mini series, so it is donezo, and that is The Fall of the House of Usher. I do have a video coming up where I talk about the whole show in particular. I just don't know when it's actually going to be coming up because I have a lot of like my Disney World content still to come in the next few weeks. So it will come eventually. I just don't know when. This is a Mike Flanagan TV show. I think it's 8 episodes long. Each episode is about an hour long, and every single episode shadows a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. And this show is so freaking good. This is about the very tragic losses of a man's children. He has, I think, 7 children, and within the span of like a week and a bit, they all die in very tragic, horrible ways. And it's just like the story of that and like what happened. And it is so good, so well done. I absolutely love Mike Flanagan. I loved The Haunting of Hill House. I loved Bly Manor. But I have to say The Fall of the House of Usher is by far my favorite TV series that he has come out with. I absolutely loved it. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. I loved it. And then we have 4 honorable mentions. These movies were amazing. I really liked them, but for just some reason, I just can't say that they were like so great that like when I watched them, I was like, where has this been throughout my entire 32 years of life? How have I not watched this until this very second? They were still very good and I still very much enjoyed them, but it just didn't have the same impact on me as things like Evil Dead, Misery, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo had. So the first honorable mention came out in 2019, and that is The Sound of Metal. This is a movie that follows a man who is losing his hearing, and he is a drummer, so it is very heartbreaking for him that he is slowly losing his hearing. It's so good. There's a lot of scenes where he like is first starting to lose his hearing and everybody is using sign language around him, and the director very specifically chooses to not have subtitles so that you feel just as lost as he does. And then as the movie progresses, they soon add subtitles for the ASL, and I just thought that was a brilliant choice. This is such a good movie. I absolutely loved it. The next is another 2019 movie, and that is the movie Booksmart. This movie was directed by Olivia Wilde, and I have to say, out of her movies she's directed, this is definitely my favorite. We also watched Don't Worry Darling this year, and that was not nearly as good as this one. I had so much fun with this movie. It was so funny, so cute, loved it. The next movie came out in 2012, and that was the movie Looper. So I remember seeing the trailer for this movie when I was living in Florida, and I thought it looked super interesting. I just didn't go to see it when it came out to theaters because I was a broke Disney cast member, and it wasn't something that I was willing to pay a lot of money for when I was making barely any money. So finally getting a chance to watch it, I really enjoyed it. I thought the whole premise of the Loopers was very, very interesting. The only thing I just didn't love about it, and that's why it's an honorable mention opposed to an actual like movie that I was like, wow, I can't believe I never thought of this, blah, blah, blah. I honestly just didn't love the plot line with like Bruce Willis's character, like why he came back. Like it was cool, and it was very cool to see like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character like just trying to hunt him down and stuff, but like his whole thing with like this like Rain Man or whatever, I didn't fully understand it, and it kind of felt like it didn't really go anywhere in a sense. Like I just didn't love that whole side plot. Like obviously it had to happen that the reason he came back was because of this Rain Man and stuff, but I don't know. I didn't love it. I would have loved to learn more about like this history of like the Loopers and stuff. I was very much more intrigued with everything to do with the Loopers over everything that happened with like Bruce Willis's character. And then the very last honorable mention, this came out in 2015, is the movie Spotlight. I thought this movie was so good, and doing so much research on this movie, like holy smokes was this incredible. This movie was directed by Tom McCarthy, and apparently based on the research I've done, there's so much about this movie that was like so accurate to the true story of the Spotlight article that came out investigating priests in the Catholic Church. Even one scene in particular that comes to mind, one of the Spotlight writers realizes that they live down the street from a priest who has been accused of doing these horrible, horrible things. So he writes a note, sticks it on his fridge for his kids saying, stay away from this house. And that actually happened in real life. I thought that was so very interesting. And obviously this movie is extremely heartbreaking, very tough content to get through, but I think it is a very great movie. And the fact that it actually won Best Picture at the Academy Awards is insane, because as much as I go off about how much I think the Academy is a bunch of phonies, like the fact that they allowed this movie to win is amazing, because just the content that it has, it seems like this would be a movie that like kind of would be pushed to the side and stuff, but no, like the fact that it won is amazing. So anyway, Spotlight, honorable mention. And then the last thing that I do every single time I film one of these videos, I'm going to tell you my top movies of the year. So these are movies that did come out this year, that I did see this year, and it's just my top movies of the year. So I've said this before, but my absolute favorite movie of the year was Inside Out. I freaking loved this movie. I did a video about this movie and I cried during that video. So that right there will tell you how much I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was so good, absolutely so important, and such an incredible message for young kids to have. I think it is such an important movie. So Inside Out 2, followed by Twisters. I can't believe how much I loved this movie. We went to see this movie very spur of the moment. This movie is almost out of theaters, and I think it'd be so cool to see this movie's in theaters. We should go see it. And we literally went like the next day, which is very spur of the moment for Sam and I, because I am a planner. And I'm so glad we saw this movie in theaters because it is so good. The visuals in this movie are incredible. I really hope this gets at least a visual nomination at the Oscars this year because it is so deserved. Also, disaster and like twister movies have always intrigued me. I used to be obsessed with like natural disasters like twisters and tornadoes and hurricanes and tsunamis. That used to be my jam. And then the final movie of the year that I absolutely loved, I will mention I am going to see Nosferatu on December 31st. So if I liked that movie enough that it was like my favorite movie of the year, I might just have to include it in my 2025, but I am technically watching it in 2024. But either way, my last favorite movie of the year was The Substance. This movie surprised the heck out of me. I thought it was so good. Did it kind of go off the deep end at the very end there? Yeah, a little bit. But the more I think about it, the more I thought this movie was incredible. I loved it. And same thing with Twisters. I hope this gets some sort of nomination at the Oscars, whether that's Best Actress for Demi Moore, Best Director, Best Sound Editing, Best Makeup. Like, it deserves something because it was so good. So anyway, that is it. That is all of my favorite movies that I discovered in 2024. I really like doing these videos, even though I had very few to actually talk about this year. But I will continue to always watch a lot of movies, try out some new things, and maybe in 2025 I will have more to talk about. But that is going to be it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I post new videos every single Friday, and I would love to have you here. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye, everybody.